Hello everyone and welcome. This is in fact my first Pioneer video. Super pumped to be playing Pioneer. Really excited to dig in. This is the deck that came in first place in a recent challenge. It's Sultai Midrange, kind of a control-ish build. Yes, we are playing the enemy. Enemy number one seems like of Magic. It's Oko, Thief of Crowns, 4 copies in the deck. It's a Sultai controlled-ish mid-range strategy, but Oko just kind of does it all, even in decks like this. So there's 4 copies of Oko, Thief of Crowns. One of the win conditions, the way to disrupt, it's a disruption piece, right? You start turning things into an elk. But that's enough about Oko. We all know what Oko does. Let's talk about the Manna Base. Pretty straightforward. Remember, no actual fetch lands in Pioneer, but we'll settle for Fabled Passage, a bunch of check and tap lands and shock lands, etc. It's not perfect, right? This is not a perfect Manna Base that we're used to in a format like Modern, like Legacy. It resembles a standard Manna Base. It really does. So, looking at the spells, we want a bunch of cheap instants and sorceries to be able to fuel some of our other cards. 4 Thoughtseize. This is basically a staple in any black mid-range deck. It's great against the combo decks. Just a great card. We know Thoughtseize, probably the best discard spell in the format. It's definitely the best discard spell in the format. Love it. 4 copies of Thoughtseize, 4 copies of Fatal Push, possibly one of the best removal spells in the format. But it is sometimes hard to trigger Revolt on this card. We've got 3 copies of Fabled Passage to do, so we can also sacrifice our food to trigger Revolt. A couple ops, they're filler. You want some cantrips. Sometimes you flash them back with your Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Sometimes you just need to find a specific card. Opt allows you to do that. And speaking of Jace Vryn's Prodigy, this is the other Planeswalker, so to speak, in the deck. We can loot through our deck with it. It's really a nice form of card advantage once you're able to transform it. And it becomes Jace Telepath Unbound. Then you can start -3ing it to be able to flash things back or shrink opponent's creatures. Normally you're not getting all the way up to the -9 on the card, but Jace Vryn's Prodigy is just, we remember it from Standard. It's making a huge comeback in Pioneer. It's going to see a ton of play in this format. Been very impressed with it in this deck. 3 Scavenging Ooze, generic, good green creature. It disrupts the graveyards. There are graveyard decks in this format, and it gains some life. And yeah, just kind of does a lot of little things in a variety of matchups. Even against a deck like this, it can disrupt Jaces. It can stop your Delve with Dig Through Time. So it's got some. It's always got some applications. Drown in the Lock. This one's a weird one. This is a new card from Eldraine, but most decks are filling up their graveyards. Sometimes they're not, but it's a versatile counterspell / removal spell. So the versatility is why I like it in the deck. 4 copies of Abrupt Decay. Just a really sweet, clean answer to a variety of things. Even it kills Oko, right? It kills. It deals with most of the annoying cards, and you want to have answers to Planeswalkers, the 3 mana ones like Saheeli's, etc. Abrupt Decay does that. We've also got 1 Assassin's Trophy. I do like this 4-1 split because Decay is the one I'd rather give the nod to, but Trophy, in a pinch, you'll use it. You're fine with that. Courser of Kruphix, one of my favorite cards in the deck. It's a card advantage creature. You'll remember back in 2015, I actually I did win the World Championships with Courser of Kruphix, one of my favorite cards in that Abzan control deck that I was playing. And it's good with Fabled Passage, it's good with looting, it's good with Opt, it's good with a lot of cards. You can normally set up to find a land on top. Really powerful late game card in Courser of Kruphix. Hero's Downfall, 1 copy of that. Kind of similar to Assassin's Trophy. It's not the perfect card, but you kind of want a catch-all type of effects, and Hero's Downfall does that. Kalida's Trader of Get. I have been quite impressed by it. a lot of times it's going to be a win condition. It allows you to spiral your removal spells so that your opponent can't come back in the game. Sometimes it's important to be able to exile opponent's creatures. So, yeah, it's a really strong card. 3 copies of Dig Through Time. So this is... The Delve spells are legal here. We've got Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time in this format. Dig Through Time is another way to close out late game situations. You can even flash it back with Jace. And since we're filling up our graveyard with these cheap cards and even some of our lands go to the graveyard, Jace puts cards in the graveyard. Dig Through Time works well with what we're trying to do. I like the three copies. I would never want 4. Sometimes I'll board 1 out in some matchups. And now we get onto the sideboard. So the sideboard, a lot of the cards are geared towards control because control is a bad matchup game 1. So we want to be able to do some heavy sideboarding against the control decks. And you'll see Narset Parter Veils, Mystical Dispute, Disdainful Stroke, and Veil of Summer, and Pithy Needle. These are all cards that are good against control. So we've got a very heavy sideboard gear to be able to kind of do a 180 and switch our matchup completely because we've got dead cards game 1. And most matchups, like a lot of matchups, some of the more aggressive decks, the mid-range decks, we don't have to do a ton of sideboarding. Sometimes we'll board in a couple Noxious Grasps, maybe a couple Mysticals, maybe some Veil of Summers, but it's flexible. So, yeah, this is the deck that won the challenge, and it went 8-0, and I've been impressed with it. Looking forward to playing some games for you all in Pioneer. Okay, here we are, first match, and opponent has kept. I think we keep this and just hope to be against a creature deck. Lots of removal in this one. Double Fatal Push, Abrupt Decay. And it looks like our opponent's playing an aggro deck, possibly Burn. We shall see. Unfortunately, the Drowned Catacombs, not the best land to have here in this spot. We would like an untapped black source, but we don't have access to it. We're on the draw. It means we're going to be taking a bit of additional damage from this Monastery Swift Spear. Okay, Ramina Ruins. That represents some additional reach in terms of damage output. We might see a burn spell get fired off here, but looks like that's not going to happen. And there's the Eidolon. That's rough. We would still like another untap. We would still like another black source. Instead, it's a Hinterland Harbor. So we can Abrupt Decay or Fatal Push. Don't really. I mean, Abrupt Decay, it's 1 mana less. So I guess we want to decay. Although there's some chance our opponent could play a card we would want to decay and couldn't Fatal Push. I'm not sure saving the mana is going to matter. So let's see what our opponent plays here. Okay, it is going to be a Boros Charm. So they're going to take some damage. The reason why they're playing it now... They're playing it now to pump up the Swift Spear. I think I'm going to just Abrupt Decay the Eidolon. We want to get the Eidolon out of the way first because we're going to have to cast more... We're going to have to cast more cheap stuff here. So we're going to have to probably cast this Fatal Push on our turn, our next turn. But it's not a game I'm not loving this situation. Alright, well, we found a watery grave. Unfortunately, it's a watery grave, which means it's not... Like, if we want to have it untapped for this turn, we'd be taking 2 damage. I don't think we want to take additional damage against burn, so I'm just going to play it tapped here and pass the turn. Can't really use this forest, so... Hopefully this isn't going to cost us too much life. And this Drown in the Lock looking like a hard counter at this point. And we might want to fire off the Thoughtseize. It is weird to do that. Just because... Oh, well, there's the swamp. Late to the party. Can still play it here. I guess we want to Fatal Push the Eidolon. But this puts us all the way down to 6, which is very, very painful. We can also Thoughtseize. Gets another card in our graveyard, which is nice. And we're probably taking a burn spell here, because our opponent has been tapping out every single turn. They probably have another burn spell in hand. Or we can take this Hazoret the Fervent. Yeah, we have to take the Hazoret. This is going to allow us to dig through time on our next turn. Knowing the Searing Blood is kind of shut off, although that's an annoying draw for us. They found a Gitu Lava Runner. So, I mean, I could have just held up Drown in the Lock there. Okay, but Oko's a good draw, right? This gives us a way to gain life. So we can get Oko onto the battlefield, which I'm definitely going to take this opportunity to do that. Yeah, we definitely want to take this opportunity to get Oko down. But we have to fade a lot of draws. Here. Make a food. And I think... I think we're going to end up just drowning in the locking this Gitu Lava Runner. Could sack the food instead, but then we're taking 2. I'm going to pass and drown in the lock. That way, if our opponent top decks, say, another haste creature, like, say they draw a Lava Runner, or... Yeah, if they draw another Lava Runner, we would end up just sacrificing the food here. So we're hoping for no burn spell off the top. Obviously, you know, very possible that they did draw one. But if they did not, which they did not, so whew, wow. Okay, huge sigh of relief. I'm gonna make another food. Sack of food. And Oko's gonna, looks like, potentially stabilize this one for us. Sometimes you have to fade one key draw step, and that was it. That was it. Alright, Lava Runner off the top. This is kind of scary if we take it, but... Okay, so we know the last card is a Searing Blood. So we can afford to take the 2 damage from the Lava Runner, and then we can cast this Dig Through Time. So let's do it. Back at it with Dig Through Time. I remember casting this one back in its days in Standard. Here we go. Okay, Kalitas, Trader of Gets. That is perfect. That is exactly what we want. I think we also want to just take a spot removal spell. I'm going to go with the Abrupt Decay. Jace. We don't have much of a graveyard for it, and it gets Searing Blooded, so not taking that one. So we get to jam Kalitas here. Jam Kalitas, make another food. We should be careful here. I'm gonna sack a food as well. Put us at a nice healthy life total. And just cast this Kalitas while holding up the Fatal Push. At 6. 6 life should be a nice cushion for us. So there's no lightning bolt in this format. We see shock. Shock is legal, but there's less, like Bora's Charm, definitely one of the better burn spells, but no Searing Blaze. So definitely a different set of burn spells that our opponent has access to. So if they get in there, the question is, do we want to just go ahead and Fatal Push right now before blocks? I don't think we're in danger of getting burned out. So yeah, I'm gonna cast this on the Soulscar Mage. That's gonna give us another blocker potentially. Maybe I should have just done this on my turn. That might have been the better play. But this also ends up working out nicely. Still have a zombie. We can make this Kalitas bigger if we want to by sacking our zombie. Or vampire, rather, not zombie. So that's going to get rid of the counters that it had on it. And we should be able to just close out the game with this Kalitas. I guess I could have made our food into an elk, but just playing this game super conservatively. But, I mean, our life total is plenty high enough at this point. And we see Oko take over yet another game. It's not in Standard. It is, in fact, in Pioneer. That was a sick rip that we had in that game. Really needed it. There's not that much in the sideboard, actually, for this matchup. So we look at Pithing Needle, no. Veil of Summer, no. Noxious Grasp, no. Because, I mean, none of this stuff is really particularly good against burn. It's kind of unfortunate, but we just have to run it back. I mean, we've got some life gain. Courser of Krufix, Oko Thief of Crowns, of course. We saw that one. Kalidas, Scavenging Ooze. So just not a bad matchup for us necessarily, but also just not one that we need to be dedicating a ton of sideboard cards to. And this is all stuff for other matchups. We saw how important the spot removal was just to be able to get rid of those early Eidolons, early Monastery Swift Spears, Soulscar Mages, G2 Lava Runners. We have to be able to, if our opponent's going to be on the play again, so cards like Fatal Push, Abrupt Decay, Drown in the Lock even can play a role in getting some of those early creatures off the board. But it's also kind of a nice feeling, right? We sit here and we're like, all right, I'm just gonna resubmit my deck because I don't have to change anything in the matchup, and we won the first game, so feeling a little bit more confident. Our opponent might decide to take out cards like Searing Blood, which might not be a good move, even though it didn't do much for our opponent that game. We have to leave in cards like Jace Friend's Prodigy that Searing Blood matches up really well against. Our opponent might not actually realize that. Jace Friend's Prodigy, another card that is going to make a big resurgence here in Pioneer. Really expect to see a lot of that one being played with. It's essentially a 2-mana Planeswalker, right? Cheap cards that can become Planeswalkers, turns out, are good in these types of control decks. And awkward mana. Awkward mana, I will say that, because we want to use the Fabled Passage to get a black source, because we don't have black. I am going to keep this. We're hoping to draw another land that helps with our mana base a little bit. Otherwise, well, it's good our opponent didn't have a turn 1 play. That's the good news. So we might just want to get a swamp here, which kind of sucks. It's going to depend on what our opponent's play is. But if they just drop an Eidolon, we likely just have to go ahead, grab a black land, and then just play a tapped Hinterland Harbor and Fatal Push something. If they don't play a creature on their turn, we might want to reconsider that. But they are going to get down this Lava Runner. They might have another spell as well, which would give it haste, and it is going to be Wizard's Lightning. So we're already down to 13. Yeah, we just have to prioritize the black. Can't afford to just get a blue or an island or a forest and then play Jace Friend's Prodigy. We'd just be too far behind at that point. I think we may want to Fatal Push during our main phase. Ooh. Well, that's a good draw. Okay. So we're going to play the forest. Fatal Push here. We want to do that main phase. It's going to both turn off Wizard's Lightning, and it's going to not allow our opponent to cast a Boros Charm for the indestructible mode. So we just want to be doing that main phase. Next turn we can potentially play Oko, play Fatal Push plus Jace. Depends what our opponent ends up doing here. Since they have another creature, I think I lean towards getting rid of that creature. They also have a Smuggler's Copter. Okay. Wow, that's interesting. And we drew a Drown in the Lock, but I don't know that we can afford to hold up the mana for it. So I think I want to just Fatal Push the Lava Runner, because our opponent might not have another creature to turn on the Copter. And so if they don't, then the Smuggler's Copter isn't doing much. And I don't think they have another one unless they top deck it. They draw an idol on here. I mean, they have a bunch of creatures in their deck. They could draw one, crew up the Copter, and put us in kind of an awkward spot. But I think this is just... that's the risk we're taking, and we're fine with taking that risk. Make our opponent just cast a burn spell here. That's fine. Okay, well, it's going to be a Swift Spear, unfortunately. So, took a little bit of a risky line, and that Swift Spear punishes that line. They also get to loot away like a land if they don't want, that they might not want here. So, we have this Drown in the Lock. Pitching a Shock, so we know that they have a good card. Probably just a burn spell in their hand right now. So the question is, do we want to loot now? Do we want to play Oko, or do we want to simply pass because we do have this Drown in the Lock plus this Dig Through Time available to us, which we can loot and then dig, or we cannot Drown in the Lock. Yeah, I think we just pass with Drown in the Lock and just plan on using that. And then next turn we can go Oko, make a food if we want to. Because we kind of want this Jace untapped. I mean, we could loot, but yeah, I'm just gonna play a land here. Close decision, but I'm gonna play a land and ship the turn. Having the Jace untapped means we can potentially block with it. And if it dies, it kind of sucks because we don't get to transform it, but this just seems safe. We're relatively unlikely to lose on this turn, and then if we untap, we can play Oko, make a food. So they are going to go ahead and crew. And we just want to get that out of the way right here before it's able to attack. They could have a Bora's Charm. Bora's Charm would give this indestructible. So I guess that's something. That's a possibility. I was mentioning that mode earlier. So we might want to loot here before the Drown in the Lock goes to our graveyard, which would give us another loot on our turn. So, yeah, they're going to go for the indestructibility mode. We're going to go ahead and loot, pitch this Thoughtseize. That way we've got 4 cards in graveyard, which I think is better for us because it allows us to loot again before transforming the Jace. But, yeah, this Copter coming in is bad. That's bad news. We could have Drown in the Lock the Swift Spear and taken that gamble again that our opponent didn't have a creature. But the only good news is we at least made our opponent, use a Bora's Charm. So that's good. What we can do with the Jace is once we flip it, we can shrink the Swift Spear, which kind of shuts it off. It shuts it off from being able to crew the Copter, potentially. So I like that idea. I like the idea of flipping Jace, just playing Oko, making a food, and plussing Jace. I think that's the plan. And then we're going to fire off one of these Dig Through Times at some point. Probably just pitching the Overgrown Tomb. So we have Jace. We shrink the Swift Spear, which is kind of perfect for us. And then get Oko, Thief of Crowns on the board. I think I want to just be safe again and sack the food on my turn to just have the know that we're gaining the life right here, right now. So once again, now our opponent needs another creature because they can't crew Copter. And we want to, if we do fire off this dig through time, we want to be careful about what we're exiling from our graveyard. Just because we also want to be thinking about flashback options for our Jace Telepath Unbound. But if our opponent's just passing, that's definitely good news. Courser seems good here. I guess because we drew the Courser, does that change our play? I think I just play Courser, make a food, and pass. Plus again. Yeah, I think this is right. Just playing concern. Oh, oops. We will be playing. I don't even know why I said pass, because I was like, wait, we can actually just have a land on top here, and it's a Fabled Passage, so that is kind of perfect, because we haven't played a land for turn. Opt on top. Now I think we pass. Yeah, now we're gonna pass. We can fetch whenever we want to, gain another life off the Courser. And our opponent's just kind of dead from here. Don't see a way out. I think we're fine with drawing the opt, and I'm just gonna sack the food, gain another 3 life. Could start making Elks, but we don't really need to play our land for turn. Okay, there is a Kalitas. So we have this Jace. I don't really think we need to try to get up to 9 loyalty on it. So, well, let's opt. Let's actually just draw this Kalitas, because we know we want that. And I'm gonna just Fatal Push this, even though I guess this might be too conservative, but we only have 2 black. I'm just gonna Fatal Push the Swift Spear, and I could even turn the Copter into an Elk, but let's just make a food. Dig through time, end of turn. End of our opponent's turn, that is. I guess I could attack with Courser, but I'm not going to in case... No, I guess I will, because our opponent's just going to crew up the Copter anyways if they have a creature. So get in there and just try to close this game out. Probably should just sack this Fabled Passage. Yeah, I'm gonna sack it now. Oh, we only had 1 more basic left. That is interesting. Already played land for turn. And yep, that's the game. Alrighty, we are on the play. Do we have a keep? Yes, I think so. I think this is good. We can sack a Fabled Passage, and I think we should do that here to be able to get our blue mana. It means we're probably going to shock with this Overgrown Tomb to play our turn 2 card. Which is going to be, I think, Jace. That's the one we want to prioritize here. Start getting our loot game going. Voice of Resurgence. Okay, that's annoying. Guess we loot main phase. Could see not wanting to do this, but it gives us a little bit more information. On the flip side, not exactly sure what to discard. We kind of don't want to... Maybe I'll just pitch the trophy. I mean, we have answers to most stuff. Yeah, I'll just pitch the trophy. I'm not... Yeah, low confidence on that one, but that's what I'm going to do. And just play the Oko. And... I think we just want to use this turn to make a food. We could even potentially steal the voice at some point with Oko's -5. Maybe could have pitched the Drown in the Loch just because our opponent doesn't seem to be filling up their graveyard very quickly. But Trophy, it's always an awkward card, right? Like, it's a versatile removal spell, which is why we're playing it. But giving our opponent an additional land definitely does not come without a cost. And this could be a Collected Company deck. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Creatures and non-basic lands to the battlefield tapped. Okay. Thalia Heretic Cathar. So that one we can deal with if we want to. I think we want to start with a loot, although... Yeah, I think we want to start with a loot. And... I guess the question is, do we want another card in our graveyard? Or not. It might not even be beneficial for us to have the Fabled Passage in our graveyard. We could put it in our graveyard here. But we're already going to have enough cards in graveyard to flip Jace next turn anyways. I'm just going to discard the Fabled Passage. And since we drew Abrupt Decay, we can play Decay and Ooze this turn. And activate Oko. So let's start with Abrupt Decay before we play our land, so that we can play our land untapped here. And I think we just want to make our food into an elk. Gives us a nice blocker here. Just play a control game. The Drown in the Loch, definitely it's awkward against Voice of Resurgence. In general, we just have to be careful. It's one of those things where I think every player who's played against Voice of Resurgence knows it's easy to forget to just do everything you can on your own main phase. So, Hangerback Walker, that's fine. Dromoka's commands. That is annoying, because that was our best card other than Oko. The Jace was gonna transform this turn. Now we cannot make that play, unfortunately. All right. It might be correct to just fatal push this voice. I mean, they would get a token, but it still might be right. We could also elk it to stop our opponent from getting the token. Because I kind of want to have access to Drown in the Lock as a counter spell. All right, let's... Yeah, this is... We could also get rid of the Hangerback Walker. We could get rid of either of these by just elking either of these, making them into an elk and then getting rid of them. Or we could get rid of both. I guess casting this Drown in the Lock at instant speed isn't the biggest of deals. Interesting spots. All right. Well, I'm gonna go with this play. So now our opponent doesn't get the token. And just get in there with the ooze. Maybe I should have gotten in with the food instead. Or just attack with both. Maybe I was supposed to attack with both here. Because our opponent, like, they might just chump block with this Hangerback anyways. To make 2 flyers. But if I attack with both, they're just going to attack Oko with Hangerback, I think. So this is fine for us. I'm going to exile the Jace in our graveyard. Because we want our opponent's graveyard to be stocked for the Drown in the Lock. This could be a Coco. Instead, it's going to be Karn, though. Which, yeah, that comes down. Makes a construct. So we have an easy answer to Karn in our hand. We could just get rid of one of these with Drown in the Lock if we wanted to. I'm not going to, though. Okay. Could also minus Oko. I mean, that's always an option. We haven't been aggressively making food, but minusing Oko to steal the Hangerback, for instance, is irrelevant. We could. I kind of though just want to make this into an elk and just finish off our opponent's board. I think that's just right. Make the Hangerback into an elk so that it's not going to make friends when it dies. We can go Drown in the Lock that. Hero's Downfall. I guess we don't... Well, we don't have to Hero's Downfall. Could just double attack and hold up the Downfall. I'm just gonna end up using the downfall. It just allows us to get in more damage this turn. Like if I don't downfall there, we have to attack both at Karn, so we don't actually get 3 damage. We don't actually deal our opponent 3 damage. And all of these random dorks that our opponent's creating are pretty relevant. It's a good draw step. So now I think we are just going to kill this Gideon. Deal our opponent 3 damage, and this should be a win from here, I think. Don't know. I mean, our opponent's playing a green-white good stuff deck, right? So, like, it's not that many ways they can get out of this spot. We can actually give them this food if we want to. We probably want to continue to ooze stuff. No more creatures in our graveyard, but we can munch on our opponent's graveyard here. And we might just have lethal. So we make this into a 6/6. We have 9 damage. We can finally use the Oko's -5 to take the knight, and this is just lethal. Oko, I mean, Oko is a card that you have we had lots of decisions that game. We're playing cards like Jace, cards like Oko. There's lots of little decision points to be made with this deck. I'm not confident that I made them all correctly. But it worked out. I mean, obviously the power level is here. Noxious Grasp, easy card to sideboard in. Another card I think we should look at is Pithing Needle. We saw multiple Gideons and Karn, so we may want that as an answer to Planeswalkers. But the problem is, if we're boarding in all of this stuff, what are we taking out? I think we can potentially board out Drown in the Loch. It's not a good turn 2 play, and our opponent has Voice of Resurgence, so it's not, like, the counterspell aspect of it is also questionable. So I'm going to board out the Drowns as our interaction that we're going to board out. And then, so we're on the draw, notably. Can maybe afford to cut 1 ooze. I don't like going below 2. Then 1 dig through time. Still going to keep in the 4 Okos. I just think it's super important to have 1. They are worse on the draw, but still just, I mean, we saw how incredibly strong Oko was in that game. Getting it down on turn 3. And it stayed on the battlefield the whole game. Alright, well, 1 land hand. We've actually got a ton of Fatal Pushes, a ton of 1 mana stuff, which makes this super awkward. But I don't think we can just keep this sort of hand and hope to get there. I'm gonna ship this. I'm gonna keep this one. Kind of want to just get, well, I think we either get rid of a Watery Grave or the Scavenging Ooze. All of the other cards seem pretty important to what we're trying to accomplish. I guess I'll get rid of a Watery Grave. Because, like, we're going to need a green mana. We're going to need to draw 1 for this hand to work out. Thoughtseize. Hopefully this disrupts our opponent. Okay, Elvish Mystic, Voice of Resurgence, Castle Ardenvale. That's actually an annoying land to have to deal with. I guess we just take the voice, though. It's a pretty tough hand, because that Elvish Mystic is actually pretty good with the Dromoka's commands. Because it works out, they play Elvish Mystic, we play Jace, they play Dromoka's command and kill our guy. Now they have a Smuggler's Copter as well. But they don't have double green in their hand as of right now. So I'm just going to play Jace and hope this works out. Which it might not. But they're going to get to crew. Alright, they cannot Dromoka's command. This could be a... Yeah, it's going to be a Hangerback Walker. And... Oko is not looking as impressive here, being on the draw. Let's see what they discard. Temple Garden. So their hand is double Dromoka's command. We cannot really afford to play... Yeah, this is just tough. We're going to loot, see what we find. I can get rid of one of the Dromoka's commands, which isn't going to cut it. Yeah, this hand is really, really bad. I think we're just dead. I think that this would be a reasonable time to scoop, but I'm not going to. Play another turn or two. Our opponent had the good draw. We had to mulligan. We were on the draw. And sometimes that's magic. That's how it goes. Never drew the green source. Well, our opponent's in the tank, but I don't think they need to be. This seems like pretty easy. Command our Jace. Get rid of it. Probably put a counter on the Hangerback Walker. They can still crew up Smuggler's Copter. Attack us for a bunch, and then we don't have like a really a way to get back in from that situation, because they're going to use the +1/+1 counter on the Hangerback plus the fight mode. Definitely the correct usage of the command there. And this is fun. This is fun to be playing with all these cards that really most of these cards don't see a ton of play in Modern, but now they're getting brought back from their days in Standard, and that's enough to go to a game 3. Nothing we can actually cast that turn even. All right. Do we change anything? I guess we didn't. No, we still want the Pithy Needles. Still want those. Don't think we actually change anything. Our deck is just going to be better on the play if we can get an Oko down on turn 3 or have a turn 2 Jace. This is a hand that I think we are supposed to keep, though. It's not a great hand, but I think it's a keeper. Yeah, let's keep this. I mean, we've got spells we can cast. We can Thoughtseize on turn 1, or we can Fabled Passage. I kind of want to Thoughtseize. I'm going to, actually. It is going to put us at 16, but we have the push we can use next turn if we want to. So here's the hand. Double Canopy Vista, Westvale Abbey, okay. Shalai, Llanowar Elves, Dromoka's command. So the command is back. kind of want to just get rid of this Voice of Resurgence. That's what I'm going to do. I think we can set up to be able to deal with the Shalai and the Llanowar Elves fairly easily with this hand. Hopefully, but the Westvale Abbey could actually be an annoying card, an annoying late game card that our opponent has access to. Cannot play Jace. That was the downside. That was one of the downsides, I should say, to turn 1 Thoughtseizing, is that we don't have 2 mana for this turn. So we can, and I'm going to just Fatal Push this Elves, keep our opponent off mana for a minute here, and then gives us still a nice opportunity to play this Jace, which we're definitely going to do, and then we can sequence it into a Kalitas. If we find a land for next turn, we can jam Kalitas. Our opponent doesn't have a creature in play, so they cannot simply Dromoka's Command away our Jace, but they can play Nissa, Voice of Zendikar, which is a card we hadn't seen in our opponent's hand, but it is an annoying card to see. Definitely not one we wanted to see. It does die to Abrupt Decay though, so we could decay here and then transform Jace and then Thoughtseize our opponent. That sounds pretty good. Yeah. So that would put the 5th card in the graveyard, and then we could flash back the Thoughtseize. That just seems like the play. We do have to now have a tricky discard spot. All 4 of these cards are really, really good. I want all of them. I want it all. Maybe we don't need the Courser to win this game. I think we should keep the Hero's Downfall and the Oko, because those are the cards we can definitely cast. So I guess it's between Courser and Kalitas. I'm just going to pitch the Courser. Not happy about it at all, but I am going to do it. And then we get to Thoughtseize. Take the Shalai unless there's something else, which there is now another Voice of Resurgence. I guess I'll take that because we have the clear answer to Shalai with the Hero's Downfall. And if they play Voice, I guess Voice isn't the end of the world either, because we can just Jace plus on it. It's pretty good. So maybe we still just take the Shalai so that we have the Hero's Downfall. But okay, yeah, I'm gonna take the Shalai. Because what we want to be doing next turn is we kind of want to get the Oko on board. And so if our opponent just plays Voice, we can do that. Alright, this is a Hangerback Walker. That's fine. Not really too concerned over that. The biggest concern is probably that Westvale Abbey. So let's get Oko down, make a food, and shrink the Hangerback. Although we should be able to prevent. This is basically green-white tokens. That's what our opponent's playing. It's a version of the green-white tokens deck that was so good in its standard days with Nissa, with Gideon. We can swap if we want to with Oko. And we drew land, which means Kalitas if we want it. So I think I'm going to give our opponent this food and take the Hangerback Walker. And then plus Jace. Yeah. I'm gonna try to take this Hangerback Walker. They might put a counter on it in response to this, but then it just has another counter on it, but it means that it's tapped. They're gonna let us have it. And pretty safe to just play Kalidas. Loving this spot. Sure, you can gain 3 life. That's fine. I mean, we probably just want to downfall that now. Could Fatal Push or Abrupt Decay. Those are both cards in our graveyard as well. No, we can't Abrupt Decay Shalai, sorry. Or Fatal Push because we don't have the City's Blessing. Or, not the City's Blessing. We don't have, Revolt. We don't have Revolt right now. I'm getting Standard and Pioneer confusion here. Sorry. So, yeah, I think we just Hero's Downfall. We can Hero's Downfall that. Let's do that. Downfall the Shalai. Gives us a Vampire. We can also get rid of the Voice of Resurgence if we want to by simply making this into an Elk. And then Fatal Pushing it. So let's do that. Gives us another zombie. Sorry, why am I saying vampire or zombie? I am confused about what Kalidas is making. I'm sorry, it's zombies. I'm sorry. But anyways, that's going to be the match. Alright, let's take the play, shall we? And I think we can keep this. We don't have one of our card advantage cards, which is annoying, but I am going to keep this. We also have to take 2 damage off this Watery Grave, unfortunately, if we want to guarantee ourselves the green mana for the next turn. Alright, so some sort of Collected Company deck here as we see the namesake card Collecting Company, which I think we just take the company. It's just super, super powerful. Magic card, it's a built-in 2-for-1. The other cards in the hand are good. See Brazen Borrower, we see Dromoka's Command and Reflector Mage alongside of some lands. That's actually not a good draw because if our Ooze gets Reflector Maged, we also just can't play the other Ooze, and it's our only action is the Scavenging Ooze right now. Could get bounced this turn. That's a nice draw. I think I'll just attack and see if our opponent uses the Petty Theft to bounce our Scavenging Ooze, which they will do that. So I think we are going to use the Thoughtseize here. Double Dromoka's Command. So I guess Dromoka's Command pretty popular right now. I'm going to take the Reflector Mage, though. We just don't want that to come down this turn. And this gives us a creature we can munch on if we want to with our Ooze. Oh, and I just noticed, by the way, we're playing against Caleb Durward. So I just noticed who our opponent was. Very strong player, of course, Caleb is. And I think we might as well just take this opportunity to eat up our opponent's graveyard, make our ooze a bit larger, and play another ooze. We know that our opponent's 2 cards in hand are both Jamoka's commands. I'm not sure if we want to... I don't think I'm going to Abrupt Decay now. I'm going to wait, because our opponent only has that one. They only have the one white source. So we're just going to let the Brazen Borrower come in. And then if they Jamoka's command to try to fight off an ooze, we can respond with the Abrupt Decay. Voice of Resurgence is interesting, but I don't think it's a good enough reason for us to use the decay on that. I kind of want to just get rid of the Brazen Borrower now. I guess we're not going to eat it. We kind of just want another thing in the graveyard. And if we cast this on our opponent's turn, like this would put us with 2 4-power creatures basically. Is the biggest benefit of it. Or not 2 4-power creatures, but we can make a creature to become 4-power. So I think we just get rid of this here. And yeah, that's gonna be it. Because now if he tries to Jamoka's command one of our oozes, we would get to go ahead and buff up the ooze. But unfortunately he drew Reflector Mage, so that plan is just kind of out the window, but we drew Abrupt Decay. So we're going to get to kill off all of this stuff. Jace off the top, alright. I don't think we want to munch on anything. Well, actually, we do. We do want to munch on stuff. Because we want the ooze to be bigger. And we can respond to the command here. If he were to fire it off, but I'm just going to get rid of the Collected Company. We want the graveyard to we don't want to allow our opponent to flip the Jace. And this is a force block on the ooze. Pretty interesting game back and forth here. So block happens. We're going to play our other ooze out, which is also going to threaten lethal. And I think we just run out the Fabled Passage to thin our deck some more. So if he loots now, the Jace is not going to be a blocker. I guess this ooze is not lethal. I shouldn't have said it's lethal. Excuse me. We can actually only make it 4 power here. But I'm going to continue. I'm going to get rid of this Dramoka's command. Sack this. Get a swamp. Alright, well, I think we'll be able to find something off Dig Through Time that is going to finish this game. I'm just going to keep the full amount of mana available for us. Fatal Push, we can just use that to win here. So we're going to grab the Fatal Push, and it doesn't really matter what the other card is. Guess Oko. The reason why this is a win is because it puts another creature into our opponent's graveyard so that we can make... Well, we don't even need to... We can make 2 5/5 oozes. Doesn't even matter. It could have been any removal spell there. It would have won us that game. It didn't need to be Fatal Push. So we're going to board in the 2 Noxious Grasps because he's playing a green and white deck. I don't think we want anything else. So in terms of what to take out... It's tough. It is tough. I think on the draw, Shaving and Oko is actually okay. We definitely don't want 2. We do not want 2 Okos on the draw. Like 1 Oko, 1 Dig Through Time. Just keep our deck super lean. I kind of like it. It's a little bit less power, but we're also up like half a card just because we're on the draw. Bunch of shock land hand, but we can cast the spells that we do have. I think we're going to keep this. Nothing amazing, but I mean our deck is it's a mid-range control-ish deck, right? So we're not... These are the types of hands you just keep, and you have to hope that the opponent isn't doing anything better, essentially. I kept in the Drown in the Locks. Might have been a mistake. I'm not sure. Turn 1 Mystic. That's pretty good. We could shock to opt. But I don't think we want to shock ourselves just to cast this opt. We can cast this. Should have time to cast it. What is this though? Ooh, hello, wow. Okay, Risen Reef. That is some spicy. That is spice. Drew Jace. I think we just play it. So far, this draw of Caleb's has looked good. It's looked really nice. So we're just gonna hope that... I don't know what other elementals he might be playing, if any. Might not be any. Might just be Risen Reef for value. Petty Thefts. So we can recast the Jace if we would like to. We also have the option still of opting. I'm going to play Jace Just really valuing getting this card going highly. And just don't feel like taking 2 damage is worth it for Opt. We are on the back foot, but next turn, if we're just hoping he doesn't like, if he continues to do this snowball thing where he's curving out and playing good cards every single turn, it's going to put us at a disadvantage. But if it's just a bunch of 1/1s, we might be able to beat this. So we can go double Abrupt Decay if we want to. I think that's what I'm going to do here. I think it's worth shocking to be able to do it. I'm just going to take care of the Jace, because with this type of hand, we cannot afford to let him... We cannot afford to let him loot. Like, this might be all he's got in hand. So, like, if it's just a bunch of 1/1s, we can potentially beat that. If he just drew a company, unlucky. Master Waves. Okay, so this pumps up elementals. And it makes elementals. That is... Wow, that's a blowout. Oh, wow, that is sick. Wow, that's gross. I wasn't even thinking about... I should have known. I should have figured that out, obviously, but Pioneer is such a new format that I didn't. Could have maybe gotten rid of this Risen Reef instead of the Jace. Don't know if I would have actually made a different play, but I should have been more aware of what was going on there. Just gonna pitch an Opt. We could... Well, we want to get rid of this Master of Waves. I don't actually know that we want to be transforming Jace right now, although being able to loot is pretty valuable, right? Because we could potentially loot into a removal spell, but at the same time, just having a Jace in play is kind of vulnerable to just getting attacked. So it's a tough call. Tough call here. I don't think we have any great plays. I guess I'm going to start with this Opt that I've been holding on to. Courser of Crewfix. Maybe we want Courser. Maybe we need Courser, actually, just to try to stem this bleeding. And we can just cast it here and hope that our opponent's doesn't do anything. Yeah, we can cast it here and hope to hit a land drop, and then if we don't have a land on top, we can loot with Jace if we want to. But it's going to get Aether Gusted. So that's unbelievably bad news for us. Do we want it on top or bottom? I'm just going to concede this. I think that's just GG. Go to a game 3. That was some sweet stuff from Caleb. Maybe we might want Mysticals, actually. Based on seeing the cards in Caleb's deck, I kind of want Mystical Dispute. Post Sideboard here. Can potentially cut the Drown in the Locks. Oko is definitely better on the play. I think I'm going to put in the 4th Oko on the play here. Veil of Summer. Veil of Summer is an interesting option. It stops Reflector Mage. I don't think I'm going to board it in, but it's an interesting option. It does not necessarily stop Aether Gust, though. So we're on the play. I'm going to keep this. We are just going to get our black mana. Unfortunately, no turn 1 black source, so we'll just have to settle for what we have. And we get to play Jace, so I'm just going to jam Jace. I mean, I think it's hard to go wrong with this. We didn't really get Jace going early enough in the last game. Didn't get much going at all last game. Seems like a good opportunity to get it down. Could Thoughtseize plus Fatal Push. Could also loot first, see what we loot into it, because if we find like an Oko, we might just want to cast it here. Just pitch a land. Get to take a look, a little look-see. What's going on here? Alright, so double ooze, voice, land, Risen Reef, Reflector Mage. It's quite the hand. Kind of want to just take the Reflector Mage. Maybe that's wrong. I mean, getting our Kalidas Reflector Mage next turn is pretty rough. Yeah, I'm going to take the Reflector Mage. Well, okay, I guess the problem... I also am now realizing Voice of Resurgence is an elemental as well. So if we let the Risen Reef stay in play, this elemental synergy is very real. Maybe I just take the Reef because of the card advantage. Got to be aware of those creature types. What our opponent's got. Alright. I think we still want to Fatal Push. See what our opponent does here. We can jam Kalidas next turn, but it comes with a risk if we do so. Because we know about the Reflector Mage, and we don't really want... We still are worried about Kalidas getting bounced, but we could transform this Jace next turn, so maybe they just play Reflector Mage out. And I like getting rid of the Risen Reef. It seems like there's enough elemental synergy in this deck that warrants taking that away. So yeah, it looks like Caleb is just going to go ahead and cast the Reflector Mage. But we can follow this up with Kalidas, and hopefully there's no additional Reflector Mage in hand. So really kind of liking how this is going for us. I think this is good. Working out. Ooh, okay. Well, we have Abrupt Decay to handle that. Could also just jam Courser and Thoughtseize this turn. That would leave the Deputy in play, though, which is kind of risky. So we know Scavenging Ooze. We know about Scavenging Ooze and Voice of Resurgence. Both plays, there's definitely arguments to both lines. But getting the Jace on board immediately is pretty valuable. I think I'm going to decay here and Jace. I think this is just the safest play we can make. Ooze can exile our removal spells, so like our Fatal Push and our Abrupt Decay, for instance, which would make things a little bit more difficult in terms of our flashback options. So the Ooze is relevant for sure. If we draw another removal spell, it's great. Okay. Kind of want to just play the Courser now. I think I'm going to do that. See what's on top. So since we played the Courser, it's a little bit awkward, but just because we're going to loot away the Thoughtseize and we're not going to flip Jace this turn, but I think it's still just correct to draw into this Abrupt Decay. And I'm just gonna decay the Ooze now, I think. Another play that is just safe, super safe to make. Especially with this Noxious Grasp sitting on top of our library. Voice of Resurgence, much worse with Kalitas on board, of course. Because Kalitas prevents it from actually dying. Just gonna pitch the Mystical. And can Abrupt Decay something, which I'm gonna do. And yeah, this game is over. Very, very over. Even like a Deputy Detention on the zombies wouldn't would not be enough there. So GG's, Caleb. Alrighty, we are once again on the play. Let's do this. And yep. Easy peasy. Keep. Not the greatest keep. But definitely keep. We don't have Oko or Jace. So, like, we don't have a card we really want to, like a permanent, we really want to get into play early yet. Glacial Fortress. I guess that could mean a control deck. I'm playing Swamp in case we want to decay here. Port Town. That's a sweet one. Sorry about that. So yeah, it looks like blue-white control. I'm just going to jam Kalidas, I guess. Not thrilled about the Game 1 matchup against control, especially with all of these dead cards in our hand, but see what we can do. Gets much, much better after sideboard. Oh, well, it's not necessarily blue-white control. There's a Supreme Phantom. Okay, we're in business. I thought we were up against blue-white control. This makes things look way better for us. Way, way, way better. This is actually a Spirits deck. Wow. Wow, I thought we were just like dead, and then we won. Okay, well, while that worked out very well, not sure exactly how I should be sideboarding, given the cards we saw. Do we want Mysticals disputes potentially? Maybe, like, we definitely saw blue. Maybe we want Mysticals. Can cut maybe one Oko on the draw, although I'm not positive about that. Maybe one trophy is fine to cut, or one courser. I guess if they have a bunch of flyers, our ground creatures are not as good. So I'm just going to trim a courser. Sometimes it's just best to trim. Not making big changes most of these matches, sideboard-wise. If we were against blue-white control, I would have made major changes. Mausoleum Wanderer. So we could just Fatal Push that here if we wanted to. Just seems fine to do that. Could also wait till next turn to push and Thoughtseize, but don't think we're really saving much. Just gonna push right here, because if we draw like another 1-mana spell like an Opt or another Thoughtseize or another Fatal Push, we could potentially double spell next turn. So I think it's better to just fire this off, take the 2 damage, and then we actually drew the Opt. So I am going to Opt and Thoughtseize. Opt is just a filler card basically in the deck. You want to be adding cards to the graveyard. Okay, so it's a flyers deck We see Brazen Borrower, Rattle Chains, Spell Queller. Interesting. Our opponent chose not to just play out the Rattle Chains here, which is a bit surprising. I kind of want to just take it now, because it puts immediate pressure on us, and is our opponent's only play that they can make. It's between that and the Spell Queller, but we don't have something in our hand that gets immediately hit by Spell Queller. We might draw into something that gets hit by Spell Queller. However, I'm going to take the Rattle Chains and just opt main phase. And just try to play around this stuff as best we can. If our opponent ends up... Yeah, we're gonna keep that. If they Spell Queller the Thoughtseize, we're gonna try to maneuver. We're gonna try to do a little bit of maneuvering this game. Expect the Mutavault to come down, which it does. And now we're kind of hoping to draw a non-land there. So if we do Thoughtseize this turn, it's just going to get Spell Quellered. But that might be fine. Because otherwise they just flash in the Brazen Borrower anyways. So I'm going to Thoughtseize. And then if we find a removal spell, we can potentially unlock the Spell Queller at a later time. I mean, there's a chance that they actually just don't Spell Queller, I guess. There's some chance that doesn't happen. They could just run out the Brazen Borrower. Okay. Okay. So the hand is Empyrean Eagle, Queller, and Supreme Phantom. This is a much better draw for our opponent than the last game, that's for sure. So this is not a Spirit, which means the Phantom doesn't pump the Borrower, but the Eagle... I'm just going to take the Eagle. Because the Eagle does pump the Borrower, and we're kind of in a bad spot if our opponent just plays Empyrean Eagle for their next turn, which they probably would just play the Eagle if we didn't take it. So now they're passing, and we're gonna pass back with Dig Through Time available. So, Spectral Sailor, okay, so we know that our opponent's hand is Supreme Phantom and Spell Queller. So we could Dig Through Time right now if we wanted to. And then if we found, we could put another card in graveyard, which would be 5. We could leave 1 mana open. I think that's what I'm going to do, so that if we found a Fatal Push here, we could then cast it. While our opponent doesn't have Spell Queller up. So there's the Fatal Push that we were looking for. I think we just want another removal spell to try to force through stuff, because otherwise we're just gonna get run over. So I'm just gonna take another removal. And yeah, our opponent doesn't have 4 mana left, so we're just gonna get rid of the Brazen Borrower. It means that this Sailor does come down, and they now have activation mana up for it, so they can start drawing cards off of it, which is kind of an issue. And we didn't draw a spell, which we really needed that turn, so we're going to let our opponent draw a card off the Sailor. And I think just decay it now. Just gonna decay it, because Spell Queller can still deal with an Abrupt Decay. As weird as that is. Because it's not actually countering the spell. So now we have another Dig Through Time turn. Sailor. This time it's fine. Our opponent has the Queller mana available. And a Brazen Borrower. Okay. Well, we could dig through time again and potentially hit another Fatal Push to just get rid of this. But it's just becoming harder and harder to win this game. I'm just going to let this happen. See what our opponent does from here. I guess I'll leave a Fatal Push in the graveyard. Alright, well, we found another Dig Through Time. I don't know if we have... I mean, this is not a good set of cards to really find. We really need cards that are going to be able to stabilize the board for us. Another Dig, we could take that, potentially Opt. Just a cantrip. I guess I'll take Opt and Dig Through Time. Okay, Mystical Dispute. That actually gives us a counter. So that's pretty good. Let's Opt first. Oko. Not sure if we can keep this and live. We might be able to. I'm going to keep it and cast it and see what happens. Play Oko. If it gets Spell Quellered, we can Mystical Dispute, or... yeah, we probably have to Mystical Dispute here. So we get the Oko down. And make a food. Have to make a food. But... I think we might be dead anyways. Maybe it's only 8 damage. So they can play Supreme Phantom, animate the Mutavault, which is 5. Yeah, it's 8. So they can attack us down to 1, which I assume is what's going to happen unless they want to kill Oko. Okay, it looks like actually Oko's gonna die. But I think we'd still sacrifice the food. Irregardless. Fatal Push, okay. Oh, we're fighting. We're still fighting. We can play a big Dig Through Time this turn. I wonder if we want to push first. if we fatal push something first, there's a nice benefit to that. It's probably just getting rid of the Sailor, right? Or is the Supreme Phantom more of an issue? I think I'm going to dig through time now. We might want to, like, if we find a Kalitas, we might want to just grab land in Kalitas, for instance, to be able to get a Kalitas trigger off here. Okay, fatal push. Drown in the Lock, Jace. So I kind of want the J. I mean, actually, there's also an Ooze. I mean, the Jace allows us to loot more, which I think is pretty important to be able to continue to loot here. So I think we just take Jace and fatal push. I'm just gonna kill the... Yeah, I'm gonna kill the two things we can kill right now. And pass. So we're not dead this turn. We're just barely staying alive. Curious Obsession, interesting. I wasn't necessarily expecting that one. Oh, wow. That's like the perfect turn for our opponent. Like the perfect turn. Don't know that we were coming back from this anyways, but that is brutal. That's a brutal turn. So we could Jace. Was not expecting that last turn. Not technically dead, but really close to being dead here. So we were actually close. We were close to, like, I guess we still could potentially come back. If our opponent has nothing and we draw, like, draw something good here. No. All right. Well, the good news about that game is that we know a lot more about what our opponent's deck is doing. I think that's very valuable. The ground creatures, as expected, are bad. Veil of Summer is interesting. I guess we didn't actually see... Don't know that we want Veil of Summer. Noxious Grasp. So, don't know that we're sideboarding that differently. Oko, I definitely think we want all of those being on the play. It's just too strong. It's one of our best ways to win is just play an Oko on the play. Ooze doesn't seem at its best in this matchup. Narset stops the Curious Obsession triggers, but I don't know that that's the fight we want to be. Don't know that that's our fight here. So we're just gonna submit this. All right. I do think we keep this. The question is, do we Fabled Passage? I think we do Fabled Passage and just get Island and then Overgrown Tomb into Jace. It means we cannot, it cuts ourselves off from being able to Abrupt Decay next turn, but I don't see that as being a big issue. Get our Jace down. Spectral Sailor. Sure. That's annoying. It's an annoying card, Spectral Sailor. But I like Courser a lot. Courser is I think I'm just gonna play the Courser. Maybe we're supposed to loot first. In case we find specifically Oko. Just gonna pitch the opt. Sure. Okay, well I think this is alright for us. Jace plus Courser is a nice little 1-2 punch. Because it allows us to most likely play lands off the top of our deck. And then we can loot this Overgrown Tomb away, potentially. We do have to be worried here. 3 mana available for our opponent. I'm going to draw that Dig Through Time. So there's a land on top. We can put that onto the battlefield. And if we just cast the Kalitas, it forces a Spell Queller. And then we could later potentially get rid of the Spell Queller. So I think I just cast it. Okay, so no Spell Queller, but 2 more Spirits. Or 2 more Flyers. So this is a lot of damage now. And our opponent hasn't actually gotten cards into their graveyard, so the Drown and the Lock is awkward at the moment. Definitely would like a Fatal Push. That's our best removal spell. But we have multiple life gain creatures, so like I think we're potentially fine still, but this is a big attack. It's a big attack we cannot do anything about. Okay, Oko on top of our deck. Well, this is where things get really interesting. I kind of want to start with an attack here on the ground. See what happens. Because we definitely want to be gaining life if we can. Okay, the attack working. That's a good sign. So if we loot right now, we're not flipping the Jace this turn. So maybe we're supposed to Abrupt Decay first. Our opponent could have a Spell Queller or Rattle Chains, though, if we just fire off this Decay, which is kind of why I want to just draw this Oko and cast it. And then we're not flipping Jace this turn. It's a lot of damage coming across. I guess casting Oko isn't actually like insane for us either. I could Fabled Passage just to get another card in the graveyard. And it also gains us another life if we make this play. Yeah, I'm just gonna Fable Passage here. I think it's gonna be okay. There's an Abrupt Decay on top. Okay. Yeah, this should be fine. So we're going to plus on... Plus on the rattle chains that just pass, because I want to see what our opponent does end of turn here. All right, so they didn't do anything yet, so I think we want to try to get rid of the Supreme Phantom in the upkeep. They probably have something. So they did have another Rattle Chains. Which, this is why we wanted to sequence it so that it's all happening on our opponent's turn. I'm just gonna make sure the Supreme Phantom dies. We're kind of 2-for-1ing ourselves, but this is okay. It's also awkward. It's actually pretty awkward that gets exiled, because now it's another card that's not in our opponent's graveyard. But just getting rid of that Supreme Phantom, I think, is huge. Absolutely huge for us. So much less damage. I mean, we got fairly lucky to hit that Abrupt Decay off the top when we did, I will say that. Attacks coming at Jace is fine. So we could dig through time and pick up this Fatal Push. So that seems like a pretty strong play to make. Fatal Push. Maybe we want Thoughtseize, although I don't know that we care about Thoughtseize. Thoughtseizing our opponent at this point. But I guess they could have something super scary, super bad for us. So I'll take it. Alright, kind of awkward to see another Thoughtseize on top. Rattle Chains and Supreme Phantom. So I'm just going to take the Supreme Phantom. Unfortunately, didn't find a land on top of our deck there. And we're gonna kill one of these. I guess we can kill two of these because we can just Jace minus. Seems good. I guess, yes, I have taken a long time to play this match, clockwise. Probably shouldn't have taken this long, but still learning things about Pioneer. That's my excuse. And I'm not going to play the Drown because we know about the Rattle Chains, so that's going to be the match.